Ok, pessoal, estamos de volta para a parte 2, part number 2, com o nosso amigo Peter Dixon. Hey, Peter, thank you again for this second opportunity to talk with you. And let's keep moving. So we stopped last time talking about your family and how they were impacted based on your decision of leaving Adventism. So let's keep going from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I watched back the interview, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. It was a lot of fun, and I just wanted to clarify. I think I said my immediate family were dead, so I don't want my immediate family to watch that and think, "Hang on, we're not dead." So my mother, my father, my wife, my two daughters, my sister, her husband, their two kids are all alive, and none of them are Seventh-day Adventists anymore. So it's like this. I feel good about this branch of Adventism, hopefully being chopped off the tree there, and not picked up again in in future generations. And of course, my what I was meaning, my father's brother and sister and my mother's brother have passed away, and but all their kids, my first cousins, are still alive, and they're the ones that are a mix of former Adventist, have never been Adventist, or are still Adventist. And there's a mixed response to what I'm doing. Some love it, some don't care, they're ambivalent, and
Mhm.
and some are like a little bit annoyed that I'm doing it. But my immediate family and most of my relatives are very supportive of my leaving the church.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. Peter, just to connect with another subject, but pretty much following the same train track we were talking before. I would like you to talk a little bit more about your experience inside of the campus of Avondale, and also the impact of Ellen White's period in Australia during that time, for all the Adventism in Australia as well, because it's a region that we pretty much Brazilians don't know much about it in terms of Adventism, and it's a very far from Brazilian reality. So I'm
yeah,
trying to understand and catch up a little bit more about how Adventism look like in Australia today. Is a very conservative yet, or it's kind of a mixed bag of interpretation or positions. How Australia is historically speaking.
yes. Good question, and I guess quite nuanced. And I realise too that every different part of the Adventist movement around the world, while having Ellen G. White truly ingrained in their psyche, all have a different perspective of her. Um, in Australia, where I'm living in a town called Currumbong and a little hamlet, I guess you'd call it, called Avondale, um,
Hmm.
she founded. I did a little bit of research, and she founded or established it as a Bible school in 1892, and now, of course, it's called Avondale University. And she was here, I believe, yeah, 18 1890, for about 10 to 11 years. She lived
Hmm.
in Australia. I'm just checking. Yeah, I just can't see exactly when, but it doesn't really matter. It's just she was here for about 10 or 11 years, and
Hmm.
she lived in a house just nearby the Ellen G. White estate, they call it. Um, Now, I think in the States, is it Elmshaven? Is that the one they have there?
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
today her house and her area, let's say, is out heaven.
Yeah, and so that's become a bit of an iconic, historic location for Adventists to kind of go to, and they almost treat it with as sacred ground.
Yeah.
Well, the place in Kurrambong where she lived looks very similar, built in a very similar kind of design, and it too has that sense of, oh, this is a sacred place in a sacred town, and she
Mm-hmm.
was here.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, who's 87, is involved with a Facebook group that looks at the history of Kurrambong, not just Adventist history, just the history of Kurrambong. And she came across a lot of letters from a family that's still well known in the town
Mm-hmm.
and had helped her a lot with building, plumbing, carpentry, that kind of thing. And the letters are just back and forth from this family to her, arranging, um, appointments to fix up particular items on her house, but also on houses in the community. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very established fact that in her 10 years here, she had a positive influence on the community. She donated money, she helped people that were less fortunate, she gave food to families, she traveled around in her buggy all around this little area that I live in, door to door, just helping people. And she
Mm-hmm.
was known as a really positive influence on the area. And I don't think we need to take that away from her in the slightest.
Yes.
I personally think that she did believe she had these visions. I don't believe she was actually receiving visions. I think she was delusional. But she was a good person in many ways and did lots of good things. And so in this area, she is quite revered to this day. Um, and as you say, on the campus that I was raised on, um, my mother has just found a bunch of photos of when I was a little boy there. I wish I'd got them ready. I might be able to send them and you can add them in later. But there's
Yep.
pictures of the campus back in the day in the late 60s, early 70s when I was kind of a young boy growing up there. But it's a very unique campus in that Des Ford and a whole lot of other academics, lecturers, and scholars, many of whom, well, half of whom are still alive and live in the area, they were responsible for really running with a lot of theology that had been coming out of the States, um, infusing their own thoughts into it, communicating with each other. I think Andrews, Loma Linda, the other universities at the time or colleges, all the scholars kind of kept in touch. And there was this definite movement of a new theology that in some ways Des Ford became the lightning rod for.
Mm-hmm.
He also became the scapegoat in many ways for it. But whatever way you look at it, he spearheaded this kind of new theology. And the unique thing about being on the campus here, with Ellen White's house nearby, people still revere that location. Her presence is still felt in the town. But
Mm-hmm.
on that campus, we have the College Church, or now Avondale University, and we have the Memorial Church at the other end of the main drive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one end is this liberal, progressive, revisionist, theological kind of place. And at the other end of the street, half a kilometre down the road, is another big, beautiful building, very conservative. And in the 70s, as Des Ford's influence began to grow and grow, the there were members of this memorial church, the conservative fundamental church, the traditional Adventists, who got together and wrote a letter to our division, the SPD. And they said, we are very troubled by this new theology that is seeping into the church.
Mm.
And now, this letter, I think, I can't remember, was written sometime in the 70s by 16 to 19 people. So, again, this interesting thing about where I grew up is this was happening all around me. And so the
Wow.
guys who signed this letter called themselves the Concerned Brethren. And we called them the CBs, I think I mentioned in part one. So
Yeah.
you had the Fordites at the college church, and you had the CBs at the memorial church. and they were all on the one campus. But what happened with the back and forth between them affected the whole global Adventist community. Now, the GC, of course, heard about this fighting. They too had their own scholars. Heppenstall, I'm just thinking on the fly here, you might be able to help me. But there was a bunch of these scholars all questioning the 2,300 days, Ellen White's authority with visions, was she a prophet? All of this stuff was also going on in the States. So it wasn't just an Australian, we're sometimes seen as a little bit provocative and in your face kind of thing. But this was definitely going on between the USA and Australia, and
Hmm.
so the CBs, and I grew up knowing a lot of these guys. They're obviously, I would have been 20 and they would have been 60 kind of thing at the time. A lot older than me, but I knew a lot of their kids. I knew all the liberal progressive guys and their kids. We grew up together. Um, they had a big influence on the church and the politics of the church. And so they got in the ear of the SPD president and they said, you have got to do something about this. Now, there
Hmm.
are rumors going around that they also had a little bit of gossip on the then president. I don't like to kind of promote that because it might not be true at all. In fact, the rumors more stem from the progressive liberal camp. Um, and, they have reason to be pretty upset of how Des was treated. But regardless of that, I know pressure was put on the president here. So the president here liaises with, so he was Keith Parmenter. He liaises with Neil Wilson, Ted Wilson's father, and they begin, what can we do about this problem? Neil
Right.
Wilson, and again, this is my observation, check the facts. But my understanding is that Neil was, and Pearson, who was the previous president to him, were already very aware of these problems that had pretty much started around Questions on Doctrine being released in 1957, which was
Correct.
trying to appease the evangelical world that we're not a cult, we're just a normal Christian movement that keeps Sabbath. So, anyway, they were very aware of what was happening. And there is a letter, and I wish I could find it. I believe in my interview in season 2 with Dr. Lyndon Rogers, he mentions it if someone wants to go and listen to it and check. But there was definitely dialogue between Wilson and Pearson saying we have to draw a line in the sand. This has been going on all through the 60s, all through the 70s. This is 20 years of disruption in the church. We've got to draw a line in the sand and fix this problem. So, from the campus that I lived on, with this melting pot of incredible leadership of theological and biblical ideas from Des Ford, an incredible pushback from the concerned brethren at the other end of the street, same street, same campus, percolated, bubbled, and grew so much that the worldwide church leadership said, we've got to draw a line in the sand. Now, I'm pretty sure that Neil Wilson, Keith Parmenter, and all of those involved at a political level wanted to not come to some kind of consensus about it and make it all work. They wanted Des out. So they
Hmm.
organized Glacier View as a meeting place. It's a place in Colorado, and they invited 130 something delegates, scholars, political people, admin, leaders, teachers, pastors, theologians, the whole lot, all come, and they had to discuss Des's theory on 1844, the investigative judgment, the sanctuary, and he wrote this famous, I've got it here somewhere in front of me, um, uh, a almost 1,000 page manuscript. So all this culminates at Glacier View in August 1980, I think, and this is where I believe you can trace 1857 Questions on Doctrine beginning a split in the church that truly happened in 1980 that the church to this day doesn't realize even happened. So just to finish that thread off, and I mentioned this last in part one, Glacier View, I believe, predetermined. They just wanted to say, hey, let's look at your ideas, but they're too different. We want you out. And as I
Hmm.
said last time, the big lie of Glacier View is that the propaganda team after said the delegates, having discussed Des's views and putting it next to the Bible, found no light. The majority found no light. But what we know now from my interview with Bill Johnson in 2022, I think, season 2, episode 1, he said, no, the majority did agree with Des.
Agreed.
They had a consensus that he and a couple of others wrote that was presented to the crowd on the Friday morning, I believe, of the last day, was voted on, and even Des himself said, yeah, I can go along with that. Now, the irony there is that Bill Johnson himself, as I said last time, was pretty much the one wheeled out all the time to say, no, the majority did not find light. And I cannot work out why he did that. But luckily, he was brave in the end. And it took a lot of courage for him on my show to say, no, that actually wasn't true. What we were saying wasn't true.
Yeah.
They did find light in it. And because it's what proves it to be we call it a kangaroo court, but a predetermined guilty, is that afternoon, Des and his wife and a handful of others, I think 8 altogether, they all went into this back room at Glacier View. This other 10-point statement came out that Neil Wilson had organised via Norm Young. That's a whole other story, because he was one of Des's best mates.
Hmm.
And Norm feels that he was thrown under the bus. But these 10 points, Neil had said to Norm and a couple of others, look, what are the things that are really the sticking points? What's really something Des wouldn't agree with? And so they said, oh, yeah, these 10 things wasn't voted on, wasn't brought out with everybody. And Des was asked, could he go along with that? And he said, no, in good conscience, I can't. And one of the points, actually, I think, I might be wrong, Gillian Ford can correct me on this because she was there. But one of the
Hmm.
points, I believe, was that they wanted him to totally distance himself from Bob Brinsmead. He and Bob had kind of been doing a bit of a parallel thing, but they had not been working together on this at all. And they wanted Des to really kind of put down Bob. And he said, I can't do that. Bob's a friend of mine. We don't agree on some things. We agree on others, but we've
Yeah.
not been working together. But I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I believe that's one of the points that he couldn't agree with. So anyway, after Glacier View, the rest is history, because it became a point of contention. If you leant towards Ford theology, you lost your job. And over 200 pastors in the States and around that here as well in Australia lost their jobs because they couldn't say clearly that they were not for Ford or anti-Ford.
Or against his
So,
position.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this split occurred where people left, some people stayed, they had to go secretive and underground. And maybe the worldwide church doesn't see all of this, but it
Hmm.
is something that permeates the whole global Adventist community, whether they know it or not. The Adventist church has a new theology existing there, and it has the traditional theology in there. And the one last thing I'll say about this is the liberal, progressive, revisionist Seventh day Adventists believe that their new theology is just an extension of Adventism, and it's a progression on from there. And it's an infusing new light and making things a bit more biblically accurate. And
Hmm.
yes, that's true, but they don't realize that to bring about a new Adventism, to bring about this reform and this revision, some of them like to see themselves as revisionist.
Hmm.
You can't revise Adventism because the very core reason Adventism came into existence
Yeah.
is to have a people stand during the time of trouble when there are righteous and unrighteous living together, and they have to vindicate God and prove Satan's claim wrong that you can't keep the commandments. They have to live sinless lives for a few weeks during the time of trouble while the
Yeah.
four winds have been let loose to vindicate God to the other planets, to all the angels, with Jesus removing himself as an intercessor. And that is the whole reason for Adventism coming into being, to vindicate God and prove Satan wrong and build up a remnant people that are
Yeah.
commandment keeping and oh, there we go, sorry,
Yeah.
commandment keeping
In the
and
right moment. In the right
yeah,
moment, right there.
celebration. They're a commandment keeping people who have the spirit of prophecy, which they believe is via Ellen White.
Yeah.
And so if you try and revise that, which the new theology tried to do, you're in actual reality having to remove that. You can't revise it. You can either remove it or keep it. And
Yes.
my problem with the gospel Adventists, the revisionists, the reformers, the liberal progressives is they think that they can revise it, that they can reform it, but to do that you're doing away with the whole point of Adventism. And
Exactly.
so I can see those that, and I said this last week too, that those who want to keep the traditional Adventist beliefs, they have a valid claim that the revisionists are actually destroying their church.
Yes. I agree with that. I agree with that. 2 points. First, this attempt from this new progressive Adventists sounds like when you have a Thanksgiving dinner, you know, and the day after, 2 day after, you still have a turkey inside of the refrigerator. The turkey is there from the Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, let's just blend this turkey inside of the blender, put some whatever sauce inside, let's mix it and cook and transform it to a new turkey bread and
Yeah.
and cook it again and let's make it sounds and looks and tastes different. This is exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and in some ways, not only are they trying to do that, that's a great analogy, by the way, but what they're trying to do is slip a chicken into the the baking or the oven and make the chicken the most important part of the meal and the cooking, and somehow tell the people that put the turkey in that the turkey was never there or it shouldn't have been there, and so let's
Hmm.
just take it out. But if you take the turkey out, you've got the chicken. It's a whole new thing. It's a whole new
Yep,
meal, and
exactly.
and that's a good analogy. I'm glad you said that because the new theology is like a new meal. Yes, there's some similar connections, might be the same plates that Adventism use or whatever, but it is a whole new meal. And to be honest, when I've had times when I've been excited about that new kind of Adventism, the way they look at Ellen White, the way they look at the Sabbath, the way they don't treat it as a salvific issue, the way they see her as inspirational, but not someone who was a divine revelator.
Or
And
prophetic
I
authority. Yeah.
yeah, and I really like that. So I really want to come across great pains to say I'm not criticizing their new theology. I'm not even trying to unpack it. I'm just saying that it is not it's the chicken in the oven that's being cooked, and good on you. Bring it out and enjoy that roast chicken, but it's not, you cannot deny that the turkey was there to start with, and the two are both separate meals.
Exactly. Agree 100%. 100%. One of the things that you mentioned about the timeline, and you mentioned some specific dates. We're talking about the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, right? We're talking about questions on doctrine a little bit before. So I don't know. I know, unfortunately, Brazilians, they have no knowledge about any of this. If
Right.
you go inside, if you enter a Seventh-day Adventist church in Brazil and just talk about Desmond Ford with any elder, I'm not talking about delayed members, I talk about elders, they have no idea.
Right.
They have
Interesting.
no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
This generation, or let's say my parents' generation, I can say, they are completely isolated and disconnected from Adventist history completely. If
Yeah.
you talk about Neil Wilson, if you talk about the Walter Ray,
Yeah.
they have no idea. This is a very important thing for me personally,
Yeah.
because my goal is to bring back to them and
This
access,
knowledge. Yeah.
give knowledge to them so they can
Yeah.
see that is happening. But my point is, one of the funniest things is Glacier View. It is somehow connected with the discovery of the 1919 Bible transcripts,
Yes. Yes.
right? So if we connect both moments, okay, we found the 1919 Bible transcript. Oh my God! And we saw that they were fighting and discussing the same topic,
I know.
the same thing. So how can you build a arena to tackle down a man who is just repeating the same
I
question
know.
and the same points from the 1919 Bible, Peter?
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Mind blowing. The look, a few points on that. The Adventist Church are brilliant at rewriting history and keeping their members away from this information. They love the ad hominem attack, where they'll attack the player, not the ball,
Hmm.
and it's very effective. And so, for example, even with my show, and I bet it happens with yours, they'll try and defame me in some way so that, oh, don't even waste your time watching that stuff. He's just got an axe to grind. And they do that methodically, systematically, and continuously. And so people then don't have this info. But in the before the no vote, so around 2012, 2014, I think I mentioned this in part one, but I was having a meeting with about 20 young people, and I just said, what do you guys think? What's your generation think about Des Ford, Glacier View, and the investigative judgment? None of them had heard of it. So this is just
Wow.
10 years ago. None of
Right.
them had heard it. And this is Kurunbong. This is where it all happened. This is where the ground zero of the explosion of that particular fight. Um, so yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in another part of the world and you've not heard of it. Even here, they hadn't heard about it. And I
Wow.
remember at that moment, I thought, well, I want to start bringing this to the fore. And it wasn't until social media really took off that people like yourself and me have been able to have a platform to reveal this kind of information that they can't shut down.
Hmm.
Um, the interesting thing about the 1919 conference minutes, it it's like your mind is blown realizing that just after Ellen White died, these guys are having the same discussions, as you said, that were going on around 1980, Glacier View through the 60s and 70s. Um, that that document, as you know, had been hidden on purpose, we believe, and wasn't discovered till I think 73 or something like that. And
Yeah.
even then, they kept it really away from any kind of true revelation till about 1976, I think, like that. But
Hmm.
the other interesting thing is if you look back, you find other times where, of course, right back to ground zero, Canwright, Dudley M. Canwright, um, is asking the same questions and having the same doubts in the 1850s, I think, 1860s.
Yeah.
You read his two books. What is it? The Denouncing Adventism and Ellen White something Refuted. There's
Yeah.
two books.
Refusion. I have
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I've got them here somewhere too. But both of those are like reading the minutes of 1919. Both of those are like reading some information that you'll find released in the 60s, 70s, and Glacier View.
Yeah.
So the church has had many moments where these questions have been raised and they've been effectively shut down, suppressed, hidden.
Mm-hmm.
The big difference, and people have often said to me when I say that questions on doctrine being released in 1957 is ground zero for the church splitting, people, without them even realizing it, no
Yes.
matter where you are in the world, you will note that there's always a pushback to a traditional kind of Adventism and a liberal Adventism. And most people in the church membership, people that do the grassroots, just think it's an ebb and flow, a pendulum swing between standards and, more liberal theology to conservative theology. It's not that. It's not a swing between more liberal to conservative, like normal politics and normal societal kind of occurrences. This is a fight between one kind of theology and another kind of theology. So, yes, when I say 1857 is ground zero and I get pushback and say, people say, well, what about 1919? What about 1888? What about Canwright in, when he did his stuff? Yes, these things were known, these things were discussed, these things were hidden, but in 1957, for the first time ever, Adventists publicly tried to tell the world who they were, and they tried to rewrite and erase or water
Mm-hmm.
down their traditional Adventism. Now, when the leaders who did not agree with this found out, and M.L. Andreasen is the main spearhead of that movement, they were furious that these four guys at the GC level had interviewed Walter Martin and Barnhouse. Is it Don Barnhouse Publishing? Um, because they engaged with these guys because Walter Martin was about to write a book on cults, and
Yes.
it was going to be Adventists, Christian Scientists, Mormons, and Jehovah's
Jehovah's
Witnesses.
Witnesses. Yes.
So the
Definitely.
Adventists, in it released in 1957, were absolutely fearful of being called a cult.
Yeah.
Um, I believe at that time there were about 1 million Adventists. So here's the significant thing: that is the first time ever that they publicly said, "This is who we are," and so the church membership went, "Hang on, yes, that's what we are," or "No, that is not what we are." And that's
Mm-hmm.
the fight I'm talking about that lingers and hovers since 1957. So after 57, there's this incredible fertile soil for a more liberal, progressive, biblical kind of Adventist approach. Des Ford emerges, Heppenstall emerges, all these other liberal, progressive academics and scholars, they all emerge during this time because leadership kind of is supportive of it. But then Pearson comes on board and he starts squashing it. Then Neil Wilson comes on board and carries on what Pearson did. And they're
Yeah.
just squashing it. And they're going, we want to go back to pre 1957. um, and we want to go back. People say, oh, there's a heyday from Ellen White's death to 57 ish. That's this kind of golden era of Adventism that's a bit of a time warp. No. People who are more conservative, fundamental Adventism love Ellen White and they trace their love of her right back to 1844, and it hasn't really changed much. She shifted her views, and of course, but she went to the grave fully believing in the legalistic notions of Adventism, promoting it, wishing everyone in the world could read The Great Controversy. Um, so while people don't know this stuff, and maybe some say, who cares, it doesn't even matter. Well, anybody who just lifts the lid a little bit on Adventism sees this tension, this fight. And to just simply go, oh, that's just people fighting between for standards and ebbing of flowing of liberal, progressive, conservative. If they think that, they are truly not understanding the depth and rupture and massive problem within Adventism that pits these two theologies against each other constantly. This is my thought on this.
Mhm.
That having grown up as a young kid in ground zero of literally having
Yeah.
them fight each other, um, people storming out of church, people, shouting at each other.
But
Um,
I can't imagine how the potluck was like was with these two churches at the end of the road. How the
oh,
potluck
they
was like. What was
they
the
rarely had
atmosphere?
potluck. They rarely had potluck together.
They never ate together. Let's see. No, no, you ate
No.
in your church. I'm getting my meal here, and
Yeah,
everybody's fine.
yeah, exactly. But what I noticed was a real effort to demonize Des Ford. Literally, people would say he was of the devil. Rumors went around. One guy said that he was at a what do you call it when they try and get rid of the devil from someone? An exorcist.
Exorcist,
And
yeah.
there's this girl, and the pastor is there, and apparently it's on tape somewhere. I've talked to one of the pastors who was there or knew the pastor personally that was there. So it's
Hmm.
not just an urban myth. It comes out of this true event. And the girl started talking funny. And allegedly, she starts saying, "I am the demon of Des Ford." And and of course, and so the people at
My God.
one end of the street love that stuff.
Yes.
Did you hear this? This girl said she had the demon of Des Ford, and and so that story just goes around. Imagine poor
My.
Des, who lived an exemplary life, a Christian life, a wonderful, health focused, gentle, inspiring individual. Imagine destroying his reputation by making up, well, allegedly fostering that kind of story. And so,
It's
look,
crazy.
I guess, so people, wherever they're watching this and they weren't in Kurrambong and they weren't at Elmshaven and they didn't have that North American division, Australian kind of tension that we're talking about, it doesn't matter. The church is hobbled by these two theologies trying to battle it out. The traditional Adventist wants the progressive Adventist gone. The progressive Adventist goes, "Oh, we're a big tent. We can all live in here together." They
Hmm.
can't. They're chalk and cheese. They can't. So people then say, "Are you saying people should leave or start a new church? That'll have the same problems." I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying identify that you are two separate things, and maybe you can work together with different conferences, or like even in the area I live in, and I know it's all over Australia. I know it's all over America. I don't know what it's like um, in other parts of the world, but you'd go to a town and you'd ask someone you knew, which church should I go to this weekend? I'm visiting town, and they'll assess, "Oh, you're a liberal progressive, go to this one on this side of town, the other
Yeah.
side are real conservative." So there's already a
Exactly.
bit of that going on, but they the progressive revisionist, and I've been getting into lots of trouble lately. I'm saying they're a bit naive. It is not going to change. Don't leave, stay, but try and be bold and brave and about sharing it. And they can't because
Hmm.
in the climate of today, when they share that new theology, they're shut down.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, stay, don't speak up, enjoy your little quiet gatherings and your behind the scenes reflections on the gospel of Adventism in this new kind of way. And just, oh, there we go again. And just, enjoy it, but realize that, you're going to die out. And all that will be left will be happy Sabbath, nice potluck, nice pastors doing nice sermons, um, but as far as this gem of an Adventism that I believe Des Ford spearheaded and heralded in, something that could have been really special could have really changed the church 45 years ago, that is never going to happen now. That's all
Hmm.
over.
Yeah, yeah, Peter, I agree with you. But there's something I will take now. The the lenses straight to Brazil for a moment, so I can give you a background what is happening there.
Mm,
Uh, in Brazil, the fact that is a completely different country and is a huge country. We're talking about a country that pretty much has the same size of the United States, 200, almost 230, 240 million people.
mm,
Uh, it's a continental piece of land.
massive.
It's gigantic. That is one of the main uh, characteristics that makes Adventism in Brazil so isolated. And
Right.
for the division is a powerful tool to develop whatever they want.
Yeah.
So Adventism in Brazil is something that never happened anywhere across the
Interesting.
planet.
Mm,
They developed something specific and curated,
mm.
tailored for Brazilian and the culture there.
I've just had a little light go on in my head about
So
something.
imagine something like this.
Yeah.
If I present myself here in US in a normal conversation inside of an evangelical church, and I say, "Hey, I am a former Seventh Day Adventist." Oh my gosh, that is a cult. That is a cult. That is a bad church. Oh, it's like Jehovah Witness. You know the conversation. In Brazil, Baptists, Methodists, Catholics, Adventists, Presbyterians, they all live together. They all share the same spaces. They shake hands. They have they have the same perspective from each other. In Brazil, Seventh Day Adventist Church is a normal, pure and clean evangelical church.
Interesting.
This is the perspective from the population in Brazil. So the challenge in Brazil is not about, hey, let's fight to bring a progressives or let's
Yes.
fight to bring the traditional. No, no, no. They are fine because they are equal in
Right.
society.
That is so interesting. A little light went on. Can I comment on that?
Yeah,
As
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've been trying to work out why you are so effective at dismantling Seventh Day Adventism, and why my efforts, I think, are an equally needed, but are focusing a little bit on a different thing until recently. So if people are watching, just to get an example of you doing this, our two shows, 7 questions to ask your local pastor and 7 more questions to ask your local pastor. I sit there listening to you in that, and I think, wow. And I've just, by what you just said, I've just realized why. It's because your battle is not about trying to tease apart these two kinds of Adventism. Your battle is simply focused on showing that Adventism, though accepted by the majority of your Protestant movements,
Yeah,
is actually a false gospel.
yeah.
And so your focus is on proving that. And so you said to me in the last show that we did, the 7 more questions to ask your local pastor, you said, can the Lord come back at any time?
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember saying that. And
I
I
remember.
and I remember pondering, yes, but is he saying that Adventists think that, or is he saying that, what do I think personally? And I think I said something like, well, I think yes, the Lord could come back at any time, but but I'm not really sure what Adventists would think on that. I should have known that, but because my focus is teasing apart these two kinds of Adventists in the North American division, Australian kind of quotient of this kind of paradigm,
Hmm.
I didn't click that when you said they cannot say Christ can return at any time, because Ellen White teaches that Christ will only come after the Sunday law has come into play.
Exactly.
Now
Yeah.
that triggered a train of thought in my mind that ended up um, becoming a whole program that I called the close of probation, and because of that gem of the way you see things, it opened up my mind to challenge the whole of Adventism on its official beliefs.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of my time is spent, and what am I challenging? Am I challenging the official belief or the progressive Adventist belief? Now, I truly believe that those who aren't aware of these two movements, these two churches in one, I'm
Mhm.
very aware that it is very important and that it is something that will benefit the global church community understanding. I think it's really important. But I think what I've learned from your material is that there really does need to be a focused effort on demonstrating why the Adventist message is anti-gospel,
Yeah.
and it's just really clicked today. So thank you. I keep learning
Sure.
new things
Yeah.
every time we chat.
No, we always get something new, and even after so many decades
Yeah,
inside of the Adventism, it's crazy. And I was participating in a hidden way inside of the Adventist Defense League YouTube channel this weekend,
right.
and I have multiple YouTube accounts, and for different purposes. And I use all my accounts, around 5 or 6 different accounts, to go into the chat and ask all the 7 questions we spoke in our first program. Believe it or not, Peter, you know what they did? They deleted each of these questions. They
Yeah,
erased it from the chat. So I saw the
far out.
questions getting in, and they were just deleting, deleting, and
Yeah,
deleting from different users from complete different place, accounts. So my take on that these are real fundamental questions, not
exactly.
to move people out of the church, but to make people think for themselves.
See what you're doing and what I can see myself moving towards. I've noticed in my last season, people are saying to me, "Oh, you are now having a stance that is opposing the Adventist message. You are now saying it's anti-gospel." Whereas before, I think people were and quite a valid point, that I was more on their side. I was trying to tease out, will the real Adventist stand up? Is it the Des Ford Adventist or is it the Ted Wilson Adventist? Which is the real one? Whereas what you've done and what you're showing me, whenever you're on my show and whenever I chat to you, is that this is actually more of a central mission, that you can ask these 7 questions, or 14 now. And I think I've got a show called Seven Questions a Pastor Won't Answer Publicly. So we've
Yeah,
got 21 questions there that we can run past them. The, what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%, is that even the traditional Adventist can't answer these questions in all good conscience against the Bible.
yeah,
So they are, in many ways, initially for me, targeted to the progressive Adventist to show that behind the scenes they don't believe it. And so that's why they won't answer them publicly. But what you're saying is that no Adventist can answer them if you
yeah.
hold the Bible as center. You cannot answer them, and it's really, you know it's a really important. So just for example, in my recent the close of probation program that I did, my in my mind I was hoping that the progressive revisionist liberal would watch it and go,
Hmm.
yeah, I can't believe that. I don't believe that. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying it publicly because I'm too scared I'll lose my standing. But what I'm learning today is that even the Adventist who says they do believe that, the official close of probation, fully dyed-in-the-wool Ellen G. White version of it, even they are going to have trouble answering your questions
Yeah.
when the Bible becomes central.
Exactly. Because if you're sola scriptura, if you're just with the Bible, sola scriptura means only the Bible. How can you answer these questions? They are very basic, fundamental, close to the main columns of Christianity,
Yeah.
right? So you have to put one arm like Samson, one arm in the Bible, another arm in Ellen White. Which one is going to be yours? Like you have to release one of them because
Yeah.
if you stick with them, everything's going to crumble.
Yes.
You're going to push everything down. It's
Yes.
automatically. So Adventists will say, okay, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So
That
that's why
is
they deleted all the
true.
questions
Yeah.
to
See, that
even
is
make
so
people read
interesting.
about it.
See, remember that guy Michael C. that was going to come on the show, and
Yeah,
he said he could answer all your 7 questions. That was why he wanted to come on the show, to answer all those questions. And I kept wondering why he didn't want to, because like why he kept pulling out.
hmm
And I've realized today, just because of what you've said, I thought, oh no, that's going to be boring. He will be able to answer those questions as an Adventist would answer them.
yeah,
But he realizes he can't do that because he'll answer them and then reveal that his answers are not biblical.
yes,
And that, I think that's what makes my program interesting, but your program essential viewing. I think mine's doing maybe a stirring the pot to make people ponder where they stand within the Adventist Church, but you're doing a work that I think is essential viewing because people are being challenged. Should I stay or should I go? Like you're literally saying, if you stay, you are following an anti-gospel, blasphemous, different Jesus altogether.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I one of the things I appreciate of your show is this. It feels like you're sitting together to eat a pizza, to eat
Yeah,
something with your friend
yeah,
or with someone maybe you do not agree with, but you guys are fine. Let's go eat something. Let's go out, and the conversation flows. And
yeah,
after the dinner, we're still friends. With
yeah.
nobody is my approach is a little bit more.
We might not ever have dinner again, kind of
It's like
approach.
it's more a NATO, a
Yeah,
NATO type of environment.
yeah,
We talk
yeah,
about this is the plan, this is the goal, this is the
yes,
target.
yeah,
That's it, or not.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not. And I one of the things I have been seeing, Peter, over the last 3 years, just 3 years doing this crazy stuff. People they have different levels at different moments inside
yes,
of the 7 Day Adventist.
yeah,
For in the beginning, my first season was like, let's go, let's talk about history, let's point the facts. People will understand just because of the facts. I have the books, I can show the books. And it's a something like, and I believe is the Holy Spirit. I think it's God is working. Say, hey, Rodrigo, this is not the point because people are living different moments.
yeah, yeah,
Someone is ready to get all your videos once they go through the logic process. They say,
yeah,
see you later. Thank you for everything. I'm going with Christ into a different direction.
yeah,
Most of the people, they cannot digest. They have to go slow.
yeah,
Then that's why your conversation makes sense because people can, okay,
yeah.
slow down, slow down. I like the conversation.
Well, I'll have a lot of people maybe a year ago, and most of them now don't say this, but I would have a lot of former Adventists saying, why on earth are
Hmm,
you chatting with this person about this and seemingly not pushing back sometimes? Sometimes I
yes.
just let them talk. I don't even push back. Um, and I, I say this, and I never do it um, on purpose. Like there's a show in Australia, well, it's stopped now, but it used to be called Enough Rope.
Hmm.
And the innuendo was that this guy would interview people and give them enough rope to hang themselves, kind of thing. Like, now, uh, it, and it wasn't the purpose of his show, even though he called it that for fun. I never do that on purpose, but I have noticed that the more you allow an Adventist to just share their stuff and
Hmm.
don't even refute it, I the more message I get from people going, "Whoa!" I had someone literally write maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I've decided, having watched that interview you did with that Adventist guy, to leave the church. And I thought, I didn't refute that person at all. I just let them talk. I did nothing as far as
Hmm.
pushback goes. People were complaining to me that, why didn't you push him back on that? And why didn't you say this? I don't know. I just didn't feel like it that day for whatever reason. But this person saw enough of what Adventists believe to go, I can't be in that church anymore. So I think I really believe that it takes all of our unique personalities and traits and the way we do things to combined to help. Like, I love the way you do stuff. I love answering Adventism. I love Test the Prophet. I love James with Academy Apologia.
Yeah.
There's so many of these people putting out material. um, I even love the ADL guys because they just talk long enough, and I start going, "Come on, guys! That I don't even need to refute that. That's just
Just
it just
crazy.
doesn't make sense, you
Yeah.
know." So
Crazy.
I think with everybody just adding their authentic bit, and we've all changed, don't we? Like I've changed since the last interview with you. I've learnt new things.
Amen.
So
Yeah. As me as well. I have one person, just for you to know, just to even understand how deep in Brazil people are rooted with this kind of a we are evangelicals.
yeah,
Um, One person, she was watching, she watched pretty much 70% of the videos. The channel now has around 580, 507 videos, 70 videos. And she, after with her husband, both Seven-Day Adventists, she was elected one of the first women elders in Brazil to take care of a church. She was the leader, technically speaking, uh, the pastor, the female pastor of the church, but not as a pastor, but as an elder. And she said, Rodrigo, I just finished the videos. Me and my husband, we are just walking to the church. We are leaders there. I have the pulpit next Sabbath. I'm going to go on the pulpit. I'm going to preach. I'm going to tell the truth to everybody from the pulpit. I said,
that's going to be
no.
an explosive
I said,
moment.
calm down, breathe, breathe, calm down. Okay, let's talk. And we talked for a while. And she was calming down for a couple of days, and she said, "Yeah, Rodrigo, you're right. I was kind of feeling the punch of that much information flowing in my brains, flowing to my heart, you know, feeling completely lost without no grounds below me, nothing." And my attitude was just go to my brothers that I love and just speak out. And I said, no, go slowly because you are a person of influence inside of your community. People listen to you. So use your influence today. You just wake up, just woke up right now from this dream. Just go and influence people for the kingdom instead of just, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, instead of just exploding as a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah.
yeah, emotionally. She was just trying to, and after a couple of days she calmed down, but they already sent their letter to the church
Yeah.
requesting their fellowship. So the process is happening. I received letters from hundreds of families,
Yeah.
hundreds. Last year was around 300 letters that
Yeah.
I received notice. Hey, we sent our letter, our family is out. Dozens of people are leaving because they are taking back their own,
Yeah.
will actually something that Wellen White preached all the time: freedom of conscience.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
talking about this all the time,
Yeah. That's
and today I see so many people like locked down,
yeah.
covered
Yeah.
about Seventh Day Adventists.
See, your series that I'm assuming is going to continue on this interviewing kind of process. You'll be able to interview people like this lady and others, and they get to share their view, and they can be passionate. But something that you're doing that I don't think was being done until you did it was like a real, hey, let's what's the better word? Let's shine a light of scrutiny on Adventism. Let's ask some hard questions. Is
Hmm.
it really a gospel church? Your show where you're talking and presenting this to a specific, like potentially millions of people, uh, it's very new.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's very new. We just hit like 25,000
yeah,
subscribers on YouTube. Is nothing.
yeah,
But one thing that is funny is the Seventh Day Adventist community, globally speaking, they are very they live in clusters
yeah,
online.
yeah,
So it's not that complicated to find and plant
yeah,
some seeds and talk and communicate. That is a good strategy. I mean, we all have been doing the algorithm from YouTube. Is working pretty much with
yeah,
your videos as well. Miles is reaching a lot of people.
yeah,
Now James is producing some shorts, which
yeah,
is helping a lot.
yeah.
So there's a lot of people involved in doing that. But Peter, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me
Can I
keep
just
going.
say one more quick thing on
Sure.
that? With your interviews, and I think something that you're doing, like even with this, you're adding the Portuguese underneath. You know, are are you doing some of that? I think you are already with James and Test the Prophet, and you're working to help them get their message out in to places that would normally not even be able to really understand it.
Yeah. Last year, the only thing I did, actually, I did two interviews. The first was Dr. Steve Daly,
Yeah.
was a long time ago. Now you were the second,
Oh, great.
and That's the Prophet allowed me to use all the his series
Incredible.
about
And
plagiarism,
the voiceover.
and I did the voiceover, and
That's
that was
awesome.
something as well. That
Yeah,
was
see,
something.
that's this. I mean, how exciting! You're only like three different people into this whole new thing. And I
Yeah,
saw in the comments of the last one, someone said you should do, was it season two, one of the Des Ford ones? And
yeah,
I'm happy. You go for it. You can transcribe that, translate, I should say. You're welcome to do that. Um,
yeah,
I can think of a couple that have been on my show that you're more than welcome to translate and send far and wide, because I just feel like there's a whole millions of people that have like literally just got none of this stuff in the Western English speaking world. You know, there's a lot of material, but
mm,
when I think about it, I think, well, there's Miles and you and me and James and Tess the Prophet, and I'm sure there's three or four others that are just not popping into my head. But it's still not been exhausted.
no, not at all.
Yeah, and whereas your market, I use market in a I should say catchment area.
Yeah, yeah,
The people that have not had access to this, you've Steve Daly, me, and the Test the Prophet. That's just this. You've just started. That's the tip of the iceberg of what is coming from
yes.
your creative output.
Exactly,
I,
exactly. And
I'm excited.
Brazil is big, and also there's the whole South America, Peter, that speaks Spanish. Spanish, like
Yes.
Chile, Argentina,
Yeah.
Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, the whole west side of the
And have you,
South
have you
America.
thought about doing that as well, translating these interviews into Spanish too?
I'm planning to put all the translation in Spanish and in English.
Yeah.
The text on the screen is going to be Portuguese because I don't have conditions just to re-edit 500, but I
And
can just download it and dub it, and that would
and
be the easiest
what's
way.
amazing, like you and I have chatted about this off air, but with AI in about a year's time, you'll be able to have my picture with my lips moving and speaking in Spanish with my voice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
Oh,
crazy. It's crazy.
mind-blowing. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, I interrupted you were going to ask another question.
no, no, no. You're good. Uh, my question is, after you left the church and restart your journey, personally speaking, spiritually speaking, what was your first decision? Did you decide, hey, let me find a new church, let me find a new place, let me start over, let me go to this or that church? What was your first decision, like the day after? Let's say.
So we had the leaving post on the Friday night. This is my last Sabbath as a Seventh-day Adventist. I kind of didn't do too much through the the Sabbath hours. I just dipped in and read some of the comments and thought, whoa, people are assuming so much. Every kind of possible interpretation of why Peter Dixon left is being presented here, all spoken very confidently. Oh, yeah, I know why he left. And they'd say, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. And then I mentioned to you on the Sunday, my father came over and it was very moving. He said, son, he put his hand on my shoulder, son, you've done the right thing. I literally by Sunday evening, so I think it was, I'd have to check, but very soon after, I officially sent away the request to take my name off the roll. I said it was one paragraph. I said I've thought a lot about it. I've 100% made my decision. I do not need anyone contacting me to dissuade me. I've made my decision. At your next business meeting, take my name off the roll and get back to me and confirm it has been done. I said, thank you for the memories. This is not about people or any church. This is my own personal decision. I didn't even go into details.
Hmm.
So that would have been, I think, the Sunday night or the Monday. But by the Sunday night, this was my first thought. And it's pretty much how I am now. I will never sign up for any other religion ever again. I yearn for camaraderie, fellowship. I literally, as I've said many times, love cafe culture. I gather with friends 4 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever. Um, I own a business that's literally 30-second walk from 6 cafes and 4 restaurants and a beautiful view of the lake. And so I'm very lucky. And I gather 2 or 3 times a week and enjoy fellowship and discussing all this kind of stuff. We have our weekly program on SDA Q&A called Good News Fellowship, where we just have the gospel and a couple of hundred people gather every week and we just explore that and have a guest presenter. So yes, I yearn for the connection, the conversation, the
Hmm.
discussion on these topics. I yearn for learning more about it, but I left with a great sense of relief that from now on, I'm going to be my own person and I'm never going to join anything again. Now, I will go along to the local Baptist or the local Methodist or Uniting Church we have over here, um, maybe even an Adventist church on occasion, and enjoy fellowship. And if I hear about a certain speaker coming, that might encourage me more. But for me personally, I've never had the yearning to join another movement, another church, another local group. That's done for me.
Got it. Yeah, and I understand 100% what you're saying, because um, in Brazil specifically, this is what is happening. Not only for former Adventists, but also for former Baptists, former new evangelicals, all the other branches of the Christianity. They call uh, I'm going to say in Portuguese, like desigrejados, which means like unchurched, or people they are not in the church, but they
Yeah.
are still connected spiritually with God, with Christ. They still have the core beliefs of Jesus is coming. Yeah, yeah, we have the Holy Spirit in us. The basic Christianity, but they are not connected to a organization, to a group organized with a EIN number,
Yeah,
employee identification number,
yeah.
with the tax paperwork. No, 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 no. That's it. We're
And
in a
and
different
and there's
perspective.
a lot of people like that. Like
Yes.
I don't want to give a plug on the show, but 6 p.m. Thursday night Pacific time USA, that's when Good News Fellowship gathers as on the SDA Q&A platform, and there is a
100%.
lot of people like that come. So if anyone watching feels like they've fallen through the cracks and don't want to sign up for anything, people have often said, "Oh, you're starting your own church, are you? Is that what you're doing?" I wouldn't even know how to do that. I am so unorganized. There's no way that could happen. I made a joke one time to someone. I said, "Oh, you guys should make me president of Good News Unlimited. I'd really get that place going." And it was on the back of a lot of jokes about how unorganized I am. I'm amazed how much output like I get done every week, but it's just because I can just chat, upload, go live. It's there, right? Off to a cafe. There's no hard work involved apart from great conversation and
Yeah,
putting it on social media. So anyway, that the someone heard me say that and took it as meaning I literally wanted to be the president of Good News Unlimited, which was the Des Ford kind of ministry after he left the church.
I
He
remember
was
that.
defrocked. But there's no, yeah. So anyway, I am not starting a new church, but I love gathering with people, and I totally understand if people want to find another church. I think it depends on the person, and I totally am not recommending people do it my way. I think a lot of people find a great sense of meaning when they join with another local church group that aligns with their faith. And I think, great, awesome.
Mhm.
There's no way I'm um, saying that's a stupid thing. I even say if you found that group within the Adventist church, enjoy it. As long as you're using your own brain, I think that's the key.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a good take for a question that it just popped up. Do you believe that it's possible for someone to not be a Seventh-day Adventist inside the Seventh-day Adventist church and just hold the biblical beliefs internally by nobody knows. It's only
Yeah,
me
yeah.
and God.
I
Do you,
certainly.
or do you think this is dangerous?
This is the crossroads I'm at. You've caught me at the exact time of going, oh, yes, I want to respect people's right to say I don't believe in 99% of Adventist doctrine, but I've found my place culturally. I love it. I hang out. I enjoy my local church.
Hmm.
Who am I to say don't do that? So I'm not saying that, but I'm also suggesting that if it is such a great little thing, like you really have found value in the Adventist version, isn't it a shame? Just reflect on this. Isn't it a shame that you can't shout it from the rooftops because you fear of job loss? And I just think, you know,
If
so
it makes sense, yeah.
yeah. So when I see these guys and women and girls and whatever, with human beings, when I see them on Facebook and they've chatted to me at a cafe, and they don't believe in 1844. They don't believe Ellen White was a prophet. They don't believe in the close of probation. They don't believe in any of the official church stances. And I just see them yearning for fellowship with like minded people. And I'll see them on Facebook, and there'll be a post where there have been, one particular person's coming to mind where they've suddenly gone to a new church and they're being accepted in, and everyone's praying for them, and they've got a leadership role in the church.
Hmm.
And I think, look, at a grassroots level, okay, but at a leadership level, how do you feel about promoting and supporting a church that at its core doctrinal pillar beliefs you don't agree with? Like and I can't judge that. So yes, to your question, of course they can, and many do, and good on them. But I just can't help asking those questions. Like, it just must be hard to be them. I mean, I guess I was that person for 50 years as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think
I don't judge it, but I come across as if I am sometimes.
it feels like the two biblical characters. Uh, One is the tax collector that was hanging on the tree, Zacchaeus. I don't know the correct
Yeah.
pronunciation in English. Uh, Zacchaeus, the little guy, the
Zacchaeus? Oh, yeah, we say Zacchaeus in Australia.
Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
Zacchaeus. I imagine like Jesus said, "These people here, salvation came to this house today." That was the message from Jesus, right? But
Yeah.
he's still a Jew and following the whole system
Yeah.
inside the system, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we talk about Nicodemus. Oh, you have to born again now, but you still a Jew. You have to go
Yeah.
through the process. You have to stay
Yes. So
inside
the
that.
challenge is there, isn't it?
Exactly.
He's not saying stay where you are. He's saying come out, change, publicly do so. Once you know the truth, leave the darkness.
Yeah.
I will say this as an extension to what we're talking about. I have discovered more clearly in the last 6 months, because of interviewing you and hearing you talk about this stuff, because of other shows that we've talked about, um, because of people like Bill Fritz, who I've interviewed, but he writes a lot on Facebook. His material is really good. And another guy I've known for a long time, but he's just started getting quite prolific, Dwayne Johnson. Because of you guys, I have realized in the last 6 months that I do not believe that Adventism is a benign Protestant religion. I
Mm,
do not believe that anymore. I believe that if you are bringing people into the church, or you are raising young people up in the church, you have a very big responsibility, if you're going to stay an Adventist, in keeping them away from these non benign dangers.
yeah.
I believe that if you run rampant through Adventism, skipping and jumping, you will fall into some big mine holes and pitfalls and thorns that are damaging to people's mental health.
Yeah.
More than if you just go to your local Baptist or your Episcopalian, or other churches have problems. They have faulty people. They have mismanagement. They have leaders that are corrupt. They have all of that. But at the end of the day, they don't have, if you're going to be a Christian and follow the Christian path, their gospel doesn't have the additional ingredients that Adventism has via Ellen White and her claims of divine revelation. They don't have those dangerous elements.
Mm,
Mormons, JWs, Christian Scientists, Seventh day Adventists, and quite a few others, but there's some danger there that I'm realizing in the last 6 months, that boy, if you are just going to stay and be a happy clappy gospel Adventist, be aware that young people growing up and people coming in may well fall, high chance, huge chance of falling for the cancerous kind of Adventism
yeah.
that is going to actually cause you a lot of harm. It is a minefield of legalism, Adventism, and it is, I think, a very dangerous movement. That's
It
what
is.
I'm starting to become aware of.
It is. You know how I feel, Peter, is like it's like it's something. It's generational. Okay, so it's generational. Imagine like multiple generations of Seventh Day Adventists believing in the same structure, like the end is coming, the son of the law is coming, the Jesus, the beast, the Pope, the United States, all this stuff, the whole package, over and over again. But the premise is this: you enter in a very large hall with multiple beliefs. Like we believe in the grace, we believe in
Yeah,
this, we believe in that. It's beautiful, it's large, it's spacious. when you start getting older and older and repeating the same cycle every Sabbath, what is happening is that corridor start getting very narrow,
Yes.
very narrow, and the walls start getting closer and closer because you start looking back and you're not listening the
Yeah.
whole beautiful thing again. And this is happening now because now Trump was elected. Now the Pope is saying this and that. So the whole
Sunday law.
fear is popping up again. So you're seeing the same cycle like the 80s, the same cycle
Yeah.
from the 70s. And the
Yeah.
corridors start getting tighter and
Yeah.
tighter.
Yeah.
This is how
I,
I feel. It's crazy.
I agree. I'm just trying to find a note that I made that I wanted to share that all came from you asking me that question about the Sunday law. So, do you mind if I just read? It's about 5 or 6 points that to me stems from the close of probation and what
Mhm.
you're talking about. The official Adventist big tent. It'd be fine if it stayed as that, and everyone could have all their diverse views. But the reality is, and I've used your analogy before, but called it a sales funnel. It's like they start with this big, interesting kind of thing to get you in, and then
Yeah,
it just gets smaller and smaller. But the goal of the sales funnel is to get you to believe essentially in the close of probation.
yeah.
That's the point of Adventism. And I'll just quickly read. This is what Ellen White teaches. I don't have all the references, but
Go
everything
ahead.
I'm about to say now, there's I think 7 points. They're all what Ellen White teaches. They're all officially what the Adventist Church teaches, and they're all about the close of probation. And it's what you're talking about. This big room, the sales funnel is all going to this moment. So if you're an Adventist and you think, oh, well, I don't have to believe that, and what right do you have of telling me that my Adventism isn't real?
Hmm.
You have to realize that Adventism's very reason for being is a sales funnel to get you to this point. And this point is that no one knows when the close of probation will be. But, and this is what you did, you started this thought process in me, the Sunday law precedes it. And everything
Yeah.
I'm saying now is Ellen White. I just haven't got the the what do you call it? The
The
quote
sources, yeah, yeah.
sources. Yeah,
Mhm.
um, uh, Sunday law precedes it. Um, there will then be the great test, which is keeping the
Yeah.
Sabbath.
Yeah.
It will then become clear that the mark of the beast is the papacy. Then government and papacy will combine, and then around that time, the close of probation occurs. But this is the sales funnel getting smaller and smaller. But when probation closes, time still remains.
Hmm.
Jesus removes his intercession. There are righteous and unrighteous living together. And the last point is that the righteous are to be the light during this time. So the whole point of Adventism is the sales funnel to the close of probation occurring, righteous and unrighteous. Let the
Yeah.
just be just and the unjust still, or whatever the Revelation quote is.
Yeah.
And during that time, the righteous are to be the light, keeping the Sabbath, keeping the commandments, vindicating God. The sales funnel, whether you want to be Mr. Happy Clappy, love my haystacks, Adventist, and just focus on Jesus, the
Yeah.
slippery little sales funnel of Adventism is for that moment where the righteous and the unrighteous, not knowing if the close of probation is closed,
Even happened.
for a
Yeah.
few weeks without a mediator to show that they can keep the commandments. Now, here's the big thing. A lot of Adventists say, oh, but the righteous can't fail. But if then the whole point of proving Satan wrong is void because he says that they don't, Ellen White claims that the humans cannot, given freedom of choice, keep the commandments. So that at the last period of time, at the end of the sales funnel, the righteous must keep the law and they must be able to fail. So there's a
Yes.
moment without an intercessor, 4 wins, end of the sales funnel. I'm so grateful I've chatted to you today because it has now made sense. It's a sales funnel to this moment, vindicating God, proving to the other planets, proving to that Satan's wrong. And at that moment, when that has been done, the sales funnel finishes and Jesus goes, everybody, I'm coming back. And he
Yeah.
returns. And I just think, wow. And thanks for giving me a little bit of extra time to say that because I
No.
think that's where Adventist sales funnel is heading. And you can be an Adventist and you can deny that, but good luck because when you are there putting your brand, your name to that brand, you are encouraging young people to grow up in it. You're encouraging people on the outside to join, even if you don't say much, just by being a nice, hippie Jesus kind of person.
Yeah.
And you are bringing people into the sales funnel. And essentially,
Exactly.
you are saying that one day you're going to stand without a mediator and you can't sin.
It's tough. It's tough. And while you're reading the points, all this important sequence of uh, mental programming, because it's a mental alienation, is a process of installing a software, a
Yeah.
Adventist software in the back of your brain. I
Yeah.
want to show you something very that represents that in Brazil, and it's probably going to shock you. Young people in Brazil, young folks, they are becoming fundamentalists.
Yeah.
This is a side effect of all this pressure. Let me show you something on the screen that is going to probably make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it is what it is. I'm sorry that is cutting a little bit, but I'm going to translate the rest. What you're saying, a young guy was commenting a video of a Adventist pastor, very fundamentalist pastor, by the way. And he said this: I've been an Adventist since I was little. I had the privilege of living very close to my God to the point of hearing him and being visited when I sleep. Listen to what I will say here in this comment. In 2023, the Lord came and spoke to me while I was sleeping. Son, just a little more, and I will come to get you and everyone who does my will. In 2024, an angel told me that the end of times has begun. In 2025 and 2026, the Sunday law will come. I saw churches closing, empty churches, churches with few members. I saw meetings and flags of all countries, just translating here, and no final in the decree. Actually, no final, no ending, and the decree was written saying, keeping the Sunday, or keep the Sunday as a message on the flag. So that is a young guy just
Mm.
commenting, and you can see, Peter,
Wow.
if you go across the videos in Brazil, fundamentalist pastors preaching, you're not going to see just one of these guys.
Yeah.
You're going to see multiple people having the same, between quotes, experience
How
of having visions and seeing the Sunday law and seeing something happens. Just for you to
see,
see
yeah,
the
that is
whole.
amazing. How is that sitting with the other evangelical Protestants now? Are they starting to go, hang on a second, you guys have tricked us? You're actually not really one of us. Has that started to dawn on them yet, or have Adventists still got a foot in the door with them?
Is happening, Peter, with the membership, but is not happening with the lead pastors of these evangelical
Right,
churches,
right, right, right.
because they are connected, because Seven Day Adventist in Brazil is a very rich organization
Yes,
and
right.
offers a lot of good things to evangelical pastors. One of the things, for example, free or very low cost education in is Adventist colleges or boarding schools, or
Yeah.
uh, courses or restaurant or whatever. This is a strategy, a business strategy to fish pastors from evangelical churches.
And Adventist apologists are so good at saying, hey, it's nothing to see here. No, no, no. We're just like you guys. They're just masters at it.
Yeah.
It's like putting one of the things that keeps me going. Like today, I've had two epiphanies in just chatting to you because of you, and I thank you for that. Something that keeps me going is I go, look, it's like a Rubik's cube. I know if I'm starting to get it, I'm starting to work it out, and once I work it out, I feel I'll have a more effective way of presenting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the time where I can do a 15 to 20 minute bang. This is the close of probation instead of my 1.5 hour ramblings or 2.5 hour interviews. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. I love the long form conversation. I'm not going to
Yeah.
stop that, but I've got another series started called SDA Q&A clips, which are just going to be me and others just doing shorter, to the point, concise, because I feel like I'm just on this journey of going, sales funnel, boom, to this point, right?
Hmm.
So it's a amazing journey.
It is. It is. It never ends. To be honest,
Yeah,
I don't think, for example, Cam Wright. I don't think even Desmond Ford. I don't think Walter Ray. We're talking about the big names.
yeah,
I don't think these guys they they died uh, with their mind 100% detoxed.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't believe that, and I don't believe it's going to happen to us as well, Peter.
yeah.
I think we're going to see the Lord, but our brain will still have a
I
little,
Yeah,
a little rescue, a little something from
yeah,
the
yeah.
Seventh Day
Can
Adventist
I
Church.
say something to that, just to be as authentic as possible? Because one day maybe my daughters will watch this and they'll go, why are you involved with this stuff?
Hmm.
Um, I I th- I don't like, a lot of people say, "Oh, do you still have an Adventist filter or something still going on?" No, I don't. I believe potentially some of the names you mentioned went to their graves with a filter, but I think what's happened to me is it has damaged something in me. When we do these weekly Good News Fellowship programs, when I hear people talk about the gospel without an Adventist filter, I don't fully grasp it. I don't see it and I've said this sometimes and people have misunderstood. I don't see it through an Adventist lens and, I can't get that out of my head. It's not that. It's something's been damaged in me that I can't grasp these these messages. And for me, and this is the part that I'm speaking authentically and I'm just saying it's me, it's where I'm at. I hope that I can heal this part of me, or that I can mend myself, or that I can come good in the end.
Hmm.
And look, I'm happy. I go to bed happy every night. I've got two gorgeous daughters, 11 and 12. I'm just
Life is
I,
good.
life is
Yeah.
good. I've got
Yeah.
5 businesses that I run. They kind of run themselves. I've got this beautiful um, property in Toronto, as I mentioned, not Canada here, right on the lake with cafe. I'm really lucky, really happy. I'm looking forward to living out my days now in a quite a relaxed fashion, doing my show, chatting to people. You know, I'm not broken or unhappy, but I can't grasp the good news gospel message.
Hmm.
I'm only exploring it. And one of the reasons I love having people like Frank Merendino on and a bunch of others, I won't start mentioning names or I'll start leaving people out, but people that speak on this program, I love it because I'm going, oh, right, that's what the gospel is. The old covenant and the new covenant. Oh, I get that. Oh, I'm not seeing it from an SDA filter. I don't mean that, but something's damaged inside of me because of Adventism.
Yeah.
That means I can't run with the ball. So, what I've had to do, this is the part I've taken a long time to get to, is I've had to go, what do I know? What can I cling to? I believe the Greco Judeo-Christian overall dynamic, it has an incredible lifestyle to offer. It has an incredible way of fixing itself, working for equality, um, getting rid of slavery. It's been able to kind of work through things and grapple with them and just improve and improve. And I can only look at the four Gospels and the teachings of Jesus as my core go to, because everything else is damaged. Everything else has been deconstructed, has not been put back together again. And I find a lot of solace in that. But
Yeah.
some people say, oh, but what about Paul and Damascus Road and the supernatural miracles? Yeah, okay, I'm exploring that. I'm trying to get it all pieced back together. And I look across at people like yourself and Miles and others who I don't think have been as damaged as me with this kind of thing and have a real grasp of applying the gospel in all its seven epistles, Revelation, Daniel, Old Covenant, New Covenant, all of this stuff. It seems to work in a cohesive fashion for you guys. And I'm looking forward to hopefully reconstructing. But for me, and I say this, I guess, because I know there's other people out there like me and to therefore don't feel that your life is at a loss. If all you can grasp are the teachings of Jesus from the four gospels, that's okay. It's fine. That's a
That's
great common ground starting point. And it's a bit of a long rant there, but I just know a lot of people think that they come out of Adventism, they've got to find another movement, they've got to find this or that, they've got to somehow make it all work, or how do I heal myself, or what. You know what? It's okay to sit on the beach and go, boy, what did I just go through? What can I hang on to? This is all I've got, and that's okay. And
Amen.
sorry for taking a long time to say that.
No, not
But
at all.
a lot of people on my show say, well, what do you believe? And what are you trying to do? I, I've just been spat out on the beach, and I can only go, hey, here's the four gospels. Here's the teachings of Jesus. How can I apply that to my life?
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I am looking forward to learning more from you guys, and hopefully having more and more penny dropping moments that help me kind of grasp this stuff better. But it just shows that you can be affected by Adventism to the point where you can have your sense of understanding the gospel itself damaged, destroyed.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I wanna just connect it with what you're saying now. Um, Let me add something here that I think it may be a good one for us to call this conversation, and that makes sense for me because what you're saying makes sense for me as well. Is a process of restarting, and I
Yeah.
mentioned that in our Facebook chat we were talking. The mention that Jesus and the two guys in the road of Emmaus.
Yes.
Um, and this is the point. I will read three verses from Luke chapter 24, and the verses are 25, 26, and 27, when Jesus is mentioned on that. So on Luke 24, verse 25, he's saying, he said to them, how foolish you are, and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Then Jesus continued, did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? And then the 27 said, and beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he, Jesus, explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. So the two men walking with Jesus without knowing that that was Jesus, they were talking, hey, how you don't know what's happening in Jerusalem? All this mass, like Jesus died, all that situation, the Jews attacking him, all that. But Jesus said, what are you guys talking about? Let's talk about from the beginning. And he went
Mm,
all the way from the beginning and explained to them, and just walking through that road, walking with them and
mm.
teaching them. So they knew, they had information of what is happening. Okay, these are the events. You're losing the news. You didn't watch the news? Turn on your phone, turn on the TV. From which planet you came from? They had the information, but they didn't have the word. They didn't
Yeah.
have the message in
Yeah.
that inside there because they couldn't recognize Jesus himself right there in front of them.
They needed to reboot and go back to the beginning.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the rebooting, the restarting process is walking with Jesus through that road and learning
Mm.
everything
Wow.
again from scratch.
Ah, hey, thank you for saying that, because I knew that my feelings were valid, but I didn't know there was a scriptural basis for that validity. So
For me, this
yeah,
is my reality, Peter. This is my
yeah,
reality every day.
yeah,
Every day I say, "Oh no, I should look to that direction. No, I should look to that direction." But
yeah.
no, that church sign that is shining a little bit more. Let me see. No, no, no.
No.
Let's start again from scratch.
Yeah,
Go from
yeah,
the beginning.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
I've found that very rewarding. And I've found that everybody can find common ground on the teachings of Jesus from the four gospels. I'm not talking even about miracles and supernatural. I'm just saying from the teachings of Jesus, from the four gospels,
Yeah,
it's incredible common ground for everybody. And then I encourage people to springboard, go off into all the other stuff. But if you can gather together on the common ground, I believe it's a way to create a truly unified um, gathering or fellowship.
yeah,
So that's something that I hope to do. Not a church, not a movement, but a fellowship that can explore all the nuances of the gospel, can gain deeper understandings of the old covenant, the new covenant, all of the stuff.
yeah,
Um, the miracles, the supernatural, that they can explore that. But if we can go back to what you just said, to the beginning, Jesus, what was he saying? We can find common ground,
yeah.
and
Exactly.
it's the common ground that builds community.
Hmm. Is the common ground that builds community. You're right.
Mm.
You're right. You're right. I want to close, Peter, but before we go to this closing part, I want to share something with my friends, Seven Day Adventist friends. They are watching because sometimes I don't believe personally Ellen White was a true prophet. I'm not on this anymore. But she herself, she presented something that most Adventists today they refuse. They refuse to accept.
Yeah.
And yes, to accept that the Seventh Day Adventist Church may be wrong in
Yes.
interpretations.
Yeah.
And I have a full collections of Reviewing Herald here, all the newspapers from 18 something all the way to the last one. I have the full collection, and I found this. I'm gonna put on the screen, and I don't know if you can read. Can you read the text that is in the this little
Yeah.
part?
Yeah.
This was reading by Ellen White. This message is for all our Seventh Day Adventist friends that still hold that the church and the message is perfect, immutable.
Yeah.
This is what she said. If you can read
Oh, you
for
want me to read it? Yeah.
yeah,
There is no excuse for anyone in taking the position that there is no more truth to be revealed, and that all our expositions of Scripture are without an error. The fact that certain doctrines have been held as truth for many years by our people is not a proof that our ideas are infallible. Age will not make error into truth, and truth can afford to be fair. No true doctrine will lose anything by close investigation. We are living in perilous times, and it does not become us to accept everything claimed to be truth without examining it thoroughly. Neither can we afford to reject anything that bears the fruits of the Spirit of God, but we should be teachable, meek, and lowly of heart. There are those who oppose everything. that is not in accordance with their own ideas, and by so doing they endanger their eternal interest as verily as did the Jewish nations in their rejection of Christ. The Lord designs that our opinions shall be put to the test, that we may see the necessity of closely examining the living oracles to see whether or not we are in the faith. Many who claim to believe the truth have settled down at their ease, saying, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's interesting that I know Des Ford and his supporters have referred to parts of that. There was a couple of sentences I recognised where
Okay.
they're saying no, that's all good. Where they're saying that you do. Ellen White herself said to test and to be open to new light.
Hmm.
But then the practicality of the church demonstrates clearly that even Ellen herself, when you did that, you were pushed down. And the church itself, in its current 28 fundamentals,
Hmm.
states that Ellen White, her writings are used to even correct misinterpretations of the Bible.
Yes.
So it's one thing to say it, and it encourages people like you and me to go, yeah, what we're doing is is valid, and it's even supported by Ellen White herself. But sadly, when you see it in practice, the church doesn't do it, and sadly, Ellen White didn't do it.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
Can I just read one thing before we go? That
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Go
that
ahead.
I came across. This is that guy Dwayne Johnson I mentioned earlier, and he and Bill Fritz have got every couple of days they post something amazing. And again, this is about that whole idea of me loving and being open to learning new things all the time. And so this morning I read this and I thought, hang on a second, wow, I can't wait to ask some Adventist apologists about this. He wrote this, and it's Dwayne, Dwayne Johnson, Johnsson. If anyone wants to look him up. Um, he wrote Ellen G. White replacing Christ with her own writings. God's final revelation is through his son, not a modern prophet. Now, Adventists teach that the spirit of prophecy in Ellen White is part of the final revelation. But in Hebrews, and I'll just read this Hebrews thing and leave it at that. But in Hebrews it says, God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in times past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by his Son,
Yeah.
whom he has appointed heir of all things, through whom also he made the worlds. That's Hebrews 1 to 2. And that even places the discussion of whether Ellen's a prophet or not into jeopardy,
Yeah.
because the Bible teaches the prophets were past. Jesus is the defining end of all of that.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I thought, wow, that's just a whole other thing.
It's super
But
powerful.
yeah,
Super powerful. And
he,
then if Jesus himself, he is the revelation, the final
yeah,
revelation. There's
yeah,
nothing else. And what the exercise you're doing, like, let me stay with the Gospels.
yeah,
What you're doing is pretty much like I have I have this. Let me give you this example as a Seventh-day Adventist. I have these three books. One is The Desire of Ages,
yeah.
the other one is The Clear Word,
Clear word.
and this is the Bible, right? So the invitation we always do to Adventists is just put this guy down, put this other guy,
Yeah,
and stick with this one. And
yeah.
if it's too much for you, go to the Gospels and start
Yes.
from there.
And
It's like cutting down,
incredible. Yeah. And
cutting down.
and isn't that interesting that we have all these discussions with Adventists trying to prove if Ellen was a true prophet or not. Well, the Bible clearly says that after Jesus, there's no prophets.
Exactly.
So, yeah, if you claim to be a prophet after the cross, sorry, you're not a prophet. We don't even have to test what you're saying is right or wrong. You're just not
Because
a prophet.
there's no revelation, and they keep holding like this
Yeah.
and trying to prove, no, this is inside of this is inside of that. No, guys, no,
Yeah.
you don't have to go through this process. We're in 2025. Come on, 2025. Just look back in history. How many times we have been talking about this? Generations.
Yeah, I know. I know. You know what? You just reminded me when you were saying young people are right now in Brazil. I think you were saying that young man was writing about he's getting these visions from God, almost prophetic. And we read in Hebrews just there that the last days, it's the Son. He has been appointed heir of all things. The prophets are for the past, to the fathers of the past.
Yeah,
These days, it's spoken to us by the Son. So here's this young guy having these prophecies about the end times and Jesus returning any day. When you said that, it reminded me of I used to own a music shop, and in 1994 there was a real uprising of that kind of conservative young people, which I've seen every 10 years my whole life. There's the Lord's about to come. Boy, I could tell you some stories of that, but that's another time. But I said to this guy, I said, mate, let's write down for a time capsule that my claim is that the Lord is not going to return at least for another 20 years. Okay, he says, right, I'll write that down and we'll put it away. And anyway, I was writing to him the other day, and here we are 21 years later, and
wow.
he's been writing on Facebook. In fact, he organized a big tour here in Australia recently with Conrad Vine. There's another whole story we could get into. Anyway, he was talking about the signs of the times and Jesus about to return. And I wrote to
Mhm.
him and I said, mate, do you remember our little time capsule? You were saying within no more than 10 years, no more. I think 1 or 2 years at the most. And at that time, 1994, I said, let's write down, I don't think he's going to be here in 20 years. And you were so upset that I said that. I said, 21 years now.
Yeah.
And I must have looked a bit smug about it. But it's this endless loop that they have of this carrot. It's just about to happen. It's just about to happen. And when it happens, you've got to be ready. How do you be ready? Get ready for the test, Sabbath, commandments. And they just totally lose sight of the freedom and liberation of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite. It's the antithesis of what Jesus was teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Adventism is anti-gospel, and then people say, "Well, I'm an Adventist and I found the gospel." Yeah, in spite of Adventism, not because of Adventism.
Yeah, exactly. Peter, thank you so much. Man, thank you for this time. It's like talking is like we just need to have a pizza. I need to visit you in Australia. We already
Oh
talked
man,
about that
you
too.
come here anytime. Got a spare
Yeah,
room. Stay.
yeah.
Bring your wife. Stay as long as you want. You got kids as well. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, we have kids. One is in college, but she's already, flying, and
Yeah.
the other one is flying too. But kids are growing. But
Well,
yeah,
come
yeah, I'd
come
like to
down,
go.
just you and your wife, and I'll show you this part of the world. It's beautiful. Like 20 minutes this way, there's a lake. 20 minutes that way is the ocean. 20 minutes that way is the mountain. 20 minutes that way is the vineyards, and
Oh,
it's a nice part of the world.
that's beautiful, man. I would like
Mm.
to talk about something beautiful too, and just finalizing with this question is, what inspired you to write and compose the music? I'll never be the same.
Oh
I'll
wow!
never be, because this music, I think, is the music that I've been listening, and it really represents my moment now.
Thank you. It's funny. People have been asking lately, where is it? It's not on Spotify anymore. I took it all down and I'm re-uploading it soon. So if anyone does want to check it out, maybe in a couple of weeks, uh, Never Be the Same, Peter Dixon, it'll be back up there.
Yeah.
There's a little interesting story there that um, I was. I wrote it. It's actually originally a love song to um, to someone, and it's really about meeting that person. And it look, I get it's half of it is about my wife, and half of it is about a romantic notion. And she often says, "Well, which part's about me, and which is that about someone else?" No, it's just this romantic notion that when you meet the love of your life is never the same.
Yeah.
And anyway, I then visited Ireland prior to meeting my wife. She's Irish, um, and I went to a place called the Cliffs of Moher. Um, I pronounce it wrong all the time, but the Cliffs of Moher. I think it's Mohar. Not sure. Anyway, it's incredible. There's this rock cliff that comes out of the ocean, maybe 800 feet out of
Wow.
the. It's really high, and then at the top of it, there's this flat bit. Um, yeah, maybe have a quick Google and just see if you can find it, because it'd be worth showing a picture of it. I've got a video clip of me singing it actually.
Oh yeah, I think I found it here. Let me see
Yeah.
if I can share my screen.
Um,
This one, this one.
yeah, that's it. Now, if you look, I'm just trying to see where I would have been. You can see on one of those pictures at the top, there's a little castle. Just keep going down a tiny little bit. I'm trying to see if the exact spot. There's a viewing area
Mm,
where I was. Anyway, you can see they're very high cliffs,
wow, this is
and
beautiful.
yeah, it's probably cleared near there. But there's a flat rock, like it's just flat. This, and then it drops off the 800 feet. I think it's the other side. They're looking at that little castle on the top of the hill there, and on the
Hmm.
other side of the castle is where I was. So they've
Wow.
walked around to a different bay there.
Hmm.
But anyway, this particular day that I was there, I was just there on my own, and it was snowing. And yeah, no, I can't see the exact spot. There's the castle. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
But just to the left of that castle, on the other side there. Uh,
that's such a beautiful place.
It's
Ireland is beautiful.
absolutely beautiful. So anyway, you get the rough idea of what the location
Mhm.
looks like. And anyway, it was snowing. It hadn't snowed for a long time there. And as I came to the edge of the cliff, I'm at the top, this big flat slab of rock that must be 20, 30 meters long and deep. And I'm peering over the edge, and the wind is coming up just before I got to the edge. So snowing, the snow was coming up. So it had been falling out over the ocean, and then it just came up like sparklers. It was like I was looking through this incredible um, lights in front. And as I stepped down, I look, and there's clouds below me. That's how high it is. There's clouds down, and there was a
Wow.
rainbow in one of the clouds going from one across to the other. And I just sat there going, "Oh, this is um, God's nature. This
Yeah.
is this is an experience that, if you truly grasp the beauty of what is being revealed to you, which then becomes a euphemism and metaphor for lots of things, then your life's never the same." And so I kind of stole my own song and rewrote the words a little bit. Um, anyway, that's a long explanation of how that song came about.
That's great. Do you have the song register? If I play on YouTube, the credits go to you, and you have everything.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than the this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, 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 I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Well, here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, and all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, 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 I will never be the same, will never be the same ever again.
Really, this is back before there was good cameras, and you can see the rainbow, but it's after all the shiny stuff because my battery was flat, and yeah, there we go.
Oh, I see now.
So,
Yeah.
so the snow had stopped, my battery had flat, a storm came in, and I raced back to try and capture the footage, but it was
Mm-hmm.
long after. It was a good half an hour after it had looked really magic, but it still captures it a little bit.
That's great.
So yeah,
This music is amazing. It's that type of music, here in a part of the US I am. Just take the
right.
road and just drive and just
Drive.
feel the mountains,
uh,
feel the
Good
mountain
driving
range.
music.
Just you
I'll
feel, I can feel that.
I'll send when it's back up again. I'll send you the whole album on YouTube. I'm kind of acquiescing to the whole streaming stuff.
Hmm.
There's young Pete. Yeah, I'll like I've tried to in the past you could sell your music on iTunes, but now you try and even Apple Music puts up a banner saying, or you could listen to it for free. And so they
Mm,
just steer people away. So part of the reason I've taken everything down is I'm reloading it on another company that will put it on Spotify, Apple Music, just all streaming. And
that's nice.
you make no money, but instead of saying to people, "Oh, if you want to try and buy it, there's this and blah blah," I just forget about it. Essentially it'll be available on Spotify and Apple streaming for free. I've given up the fight to make make a living. There was a time there where Steve Jobs had really set up iTunes in an incredible way for the musician. You might make 40 cents a sale, whereas now you make 0.12%
Yeah,
of a cent.
it's just and make everything, make the art, takes the art to a different direction. It's
Yeah,
just like the relationship with the album, with the I have DVDs and CDs here
yeah,
from long ago, and I keep it because it
yeah.
makes, the memory of having it, touching it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to
Before,
remember. I'll send you a CD of it as well.
yeah, you
But
sent me in
but as soon as
California.
as soon as
You
it's
you
oh
autographed it.
yes, that's
I
right. You've
have
got
it.
the whole album. That's
Yeah, I have
right.
it.
I remember that. Yes,
Yeah.
you have one of the
That,
last ones ever.
that was a special. I really appreciate that, man. That was
And
a good one.
yeah, as of I was really lucky. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but one of my other songs went to number one on iTunes over here in the country music charts a couple of weeks ago. It went to number four on the
Wow.
charts, and that's almost unheard of these days because of streaming. You've got to buy it to get it into the charts.
Wow.
But
That's amazing.
so that was a nice feeling, but it's kind of those days are fast going. Like it'll be interesting when I see the stats of how many it sold and how much revenue it brought in. If that had happened, and I have been lucky to have two songs in the past. One both went to number one, a blues one and another kind of new agey instrumental one. In the last since leaving the Adventist church, actually, my creative output started to have better results. But anyway, that what was I going to say? Yeah,
These
that
days are
those
going.
days are gone, and I'm just giving in to the whole Spotify, Apple Music, and in some ways it'll be easy because if people say, "Hey, I like that song," okay, here's the link. Don't
Yeah.
even try to buy it. Just there you go.
Yeah. YouTube is good. I think YouTube pays better than all platforms.
See, the problem with YouTube is that if you put your music on there, if I use it myself, I get a copyright strike on my own channel.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Really?
And yeah, and if you use it, you might even get a copyright strike as well.
Yeah.
Try it and see. I'd be very interested.
I'll try because I know there's a split sharing stuff, but I would just turn off turning off the revenue thing, so it goes
Right.
straight to the artist. So
Well,
not
I one of the reasons I took everything down off the platform I was on is because literally every week I get three or four strikes that I have to go and refute of my own song because YouTube acts as a publisher on my
Mhm.
behalf. They don't know that my channel is me. So anyone that uses the song, the algorithm picks it up. They mute. Sometimes they'll mute the volume on a whole show. So not even just it's not just about monetizing. They mute it. So
Yeah,
I have to refute it, and it only takes me 2 minutes now. It used to take me 10, 20 minutes each one, but now it only takes me maybe 2 minutes because I've just gotten so fast and I cut and paste stuff. But I have to refute it. And so I took everything down to not have to go through YouTube. But now I'm realizing that YouTube actually pays better revenue. So it's almost like I feel like, what do I do? If other people use it, I get some revenue.
yeah, Yeah.
But if I use it myself, my channel gets muted.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, what? And I've tried everything.
Oh, man.
I just got so frustrated. I took everything down.
Oh.
But now that you've reminded me, maybe I'll just put it all on there, and too bad.
I will try to put this after this
See, the
interview.
thing is, they won't, because it's been taken down. It won't be linked to me at all now.
Hmm.
So go for it. And then maybe in another program, you can add the link when I get it reset up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
see what
That's a good
happens.
point.
But I'm of two minds about the whole thing, because I think I pay about $300 US a year to have all my songs up, and you don't make $200 or $300 a year anymore.
Yeah. It's pretty
So,
much just investing to play the songs, make them name
yeah.
out. Marketing is a
Oh,
marketing investment.
I make more money selling these than than my songs. So it's just
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah. But Peter, we need to bring you back
Yes.
to talk about music because music is extremely powerful in Brazil. Seventh Day
Oh,
Adventist Church is in Hope Channel in Brazil. They
yeah.
are the leaders and the global leaders in creative production in music. They
I
have
know.
multiple TV studios, like something like high level, and millions invested that in music and
Yeah.
art. So we need to go back to talk about music because
Yeah.
music is a good conversation too.
Yes. You've kind of inspired me on lots of levels today, and I think that if I just go, you know what, too bad, put it up, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music. So what if I have to spend a few minutes a week refuting the claim against myself? I do believe that the market in Brazil is huge.
Yeah,
I've got some friends, Melissa Otto. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's has got thousands of streams in Brazil alone.
yeah,
Thousands. And so yeah, maybe a song like "Never Be the Same" might be suddenly well received and listened to, and so yeah, it's probably time for me to promote the music again. I feel
yeah.
like that album's still got life in it.
And if for you to have an idea, Adventists only remember heritage singers,
Yeah.
Whitley Phipps, and that's it. And
Yes.
whatever they consume is Battle, for example, Brooklyn Tabernacle, Gator vocal band. This is what the Brazilians really love. They love
Yeah.
Gator vocal
Yeah.
band. They really love that. So I think there's a lot of room, and you know, this music it means a lot because it's a transformation. It's a going from a moment to a different moment
Yeah.
and crossing the bridge. I think this is what personally for me represents your song.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Guys, thank you so much for you guys have been watching so far, sticking with us for 2 hours. Oh, 2 hours with plus
And a
1
lot of
hour
that chat about YouTube and music you can cut down.
here. Just leave it. People will love it. And Peter, again, thank you so much, brother. Thank you for
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank
These
you.
are very meaningful and deep conversations that makes a difference for me first. Makes a lot of difference in my life, and I appreciate the work you're doing.
Mate, it's a mutual feeling. I've really appreciated our friendship and love your material, and look forward to having you back on my show again. Thank you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Guys, thank you so much. I had here in the show today, and part one and part two. Peter Dixon, great artist and a one of the big voices actually in the former Adventist scene and world today, and on YouTube and podcasts, and had a beautiful and powerful channel. Please go visit and subscribe. SDA Q&A is the name, and hope to see you soon, Peter.
Thank you.
That you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be